Well, first of all, thank you everybody for coming. We appreciate the press coming on a short notice and coming out and talking to us. We have business leaders here. The chamber has come up here. We have the people from the watershed. I have people from the county and the attorneys and people from the realty companies. And the reason is that I think people have to understand what's going on in the diversion and what we're doing. Bryce, you want to come up too? Home Builders Association is with us as well. So what we have going on in the community is we have a flood issue, and we're going after that. We need flood protection, and diversion is part of that. I think sometimes people get a little confused, but it's something that is ongoing. So the reason we chose the Mickelson Field is that we have a big pump station here. And people always get kind of curious about that, but if we have water, we have to have the ability to get water, keep the water out, and we also have to have the ability to get the water out of here back into the river so that we don't flood our city or our community. We continue to put pumps throughout the community and continue to have pump stations that are going in. And if sometimes you guys want to go around and just look at some of the pump stations, they're immense, they're huge, and they're going to protect us and help us. This project has been studied for 6 years. A lot of times the city of Fargo, what happens, we sometimes have that saying, get her done. Because what happened is when we had the flood of 209, we had a catastrophic event, but the community stretched out and got things done in a short period of time. And we never asked, the community never asked, well, we just don't want to do it, I don't want to get out of bed this morning, I don't want to have it to happen. Everybody just stood up and said, what can we do to help? The difficulty is that we've studied this for 6 years now. We have studied every possible way of trying to give us good flood protection. And unfortunately, with the FEMA mapping coming and going to higher levels, we need more protection in the city than just levees. They said they would remap in 5 years. I'm very concerned about that. 5 years from now, 20,000 homes have to pay flood insurance. That is not a positive for our community. That is something we need to work to get away from. Now, it's interesting as time goes on, it's really good that when we start talking about what's the best solution, what do you think we ought to do? How can we do it? And every study has come back. When the environmental study from the DNR came back, they affirmed that retention is not the solution to this problem. The environmental study again reaffirms the fact that diversion is the answer to this problem. You need a diversion with a staging area to protect people in the community. So as much as we'd like to say, I don't really want to have that happen, we don't have any choice in that. As far as the lawsuit goes, we are in compliance with the judge's ruling. Whatever the judge has told us to do, we do. And again, what happens in your limbo? When you're in Oxbow and you can't sell your house, you can't refinance your house can't do anything, you're in limbo. And many of our homeowners in our community, same as in Fargo, they say, Tim, what are you going to do in my area? What's going to happen in this area? And you have to say, okay, we're going to buy you out, we're not going to buy you out. Recently, the city of Fargo is going to eminent domain on 26 properties. And the reason is because we asked for volunteer buyout, and those people did not want to do that. Well, we have to keep moving forward on this project because if we have another major flood, we're going to have our dikes in place and have our protection in place. In the lawsuit on Oxbow, we are seeking some clarification of the homeowners that are down there and the people that are building. And we join in Mayor Nyhoff that we would like an answer from the judge, can they still continue the projects on the homes? And I think everybody has to remember there's people behind every decision. This isn't as easy as it is sometimes, but you have people, a husband and wife, we've had hardship cases, we've had different people. And as much as we stand still, life moves on. People have issues they have to deal with. So in Oxbow, we treat people fairly, and as everybody would be in this project. What you try to do is figure out the best solution to every problem. In 2009, when we had the flood, we'd walk into homeowners and they'd say, your gazebo's got to go. And they'd say, can't we keep it? Can't we do something else? And we'd make every attempt to try to figure a better solution for everybody's problem. But when it came down to the end, then you'd have to do what was the right thing. And what most people will tell you in this community is we treat people fair. And everybody we try to do in this project, we want to treat it fairly. Now, right now on the Oxbow levee, the concern we have is there's 40 families that are in direct limbo until we know more from the judge. To date, we have strictly followed the federal relocation guidelines and have been compensating people with what their home worth according to their appraisal, in addition to what makes them whole according to federal law. Now, every home has had an appraisal completed, and that is the basis for the cost of the home. The city has a contract in place with the Corps of Engineering to follow the law and the relocations in Oxbow, and within the town as part of the federal project. What I had Eric Johnson draw up for us today is there was some question of how that worked or how that came about. And we have all the legal documents behind that. And I feel a little irritated about this because Mayor Wallaker worked very hard to get the MOU with Oxbow. That took a lot of hard work and effort on everybody's part. And everybody had to give a little bit, and they did give a little bit. But we did get that. And the thing is that just as I'm a surgeon, I'm an expert in my field, I'm not an attorney. I don't ever claim to be an attorney. But I have a good team of people working for us that answer all those questions. And the city of Fargo people have to know we rely on experts to give us the evaluations of what's going on. And we have followed all the rules that we have been put forth before us and treated people as they should be. State partners, we continue to work closely with the North Dakota State Water Commission and the Minnesota DNR. We ask of the public to trust us that this is the right plan, and we're pleased to report again that the DNR does agree with us in this area of what we need a diversion. Their report will be done in August. It'll be finalized in February, and we look forward to seeing what they have to say to us and help us out. In many ways, it's like Mayor Williams said, it's a second opinion, and it's always good to have a second opinion on things. So on our federal partners, all things are the difficulty with this project. There's so many things in flux that it's not a simplistic issue. So at the same time, we're working within the city. This year, we have $200 million worth of projects going on. $200 million, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of stuff going on. So I'd invite the press to drive around with our engineers and sometimes see all the different things that are going on in the community. We're working with Washington right now to do a private-public partnership. And with a private-public partnership, you can shorten the length of time it takes to do this project. So if you do something with the Corps, bear in mind it'd take 8 to 12 years. If we can do something with a private-public partnership, we can drop that to 6 to 8 years and get it done. And that's really what the community wants. We will continue to work with our partners in Congress and Senate and see what we can do to move forward. We've had great things happen in the last few months in that regard, and I am confident that we'll continue to move forward on this issue. Lastly, what I want to do is thank the residents of Fargo, the people of Moorhead, the 2 counties, the 2 cities, the people that are engaged in this process. They've been very patient with us, and they're always giving us kind letters and emails to give us support in this project. And oftentimes what I hear is, Tim, keep going forward, keep going forward. So what we have to do is continue to get flood protection for the community, and we will continue to strive to do that. Eric, do you have your letter here that you can hand to the press?
I do, and I think we've circulated it to everybody.
Would you just comment just on, you tracked all the bills and all the different things that have gone before us, and we're in compliance with everything?
Yes, yeah, and certainly, if we're not, I don't know about it, and but we're certainly trying to be in compliance with all the federal relocation and acquisition laws.
Very good.
Eric, can I ask a question about this part of this? That he just doesn't buy this law. You've done the research. What's your conclusion of these? Oxbow or allowed?
Well, the question presented was whether prior to a project partnership agreement, whether prior to a private partnership agreement with the Federal Army Corps of Engineers, whether the relocation requirements are truly required. And the answer is there are a number of references to the relocation law, but specifically there are 2 agreements. One's with the Corps, one's with the City of Oxbow. Both of them say that we have to comply with the relocation law. Sure. So the issue was whether the relocation law of the federal government is required prior to the project partnership agreement. And there are a number of references to compliance with federal law in various sources, but there are 2 specific agreements that make reference to the requirement that with respect to the Diversion Project out at Oxbow, Hicks and Bakke levee project, that we comply with the federal relocation law. One is the work-in-kind agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers that the non-federal interest entered into to build both the in-town levees that are going on right now as well as the Oxbow project. And then the other is this agreement, the MOU with the City of Oxbow, that was entered into in the fall of 2013.
So the homes being sold or purchased much higher than appraised value, that's allowed.
Yes, I mean, that is. It's totally in compliance with that federal relocation
Well, what it really
law.
is they pay their appraised value, but you have to do a replacement cost. So for you to have an appraised value in a community where their tax values were going down, where they got a 20% reduction, your tax value will be much lower. Your appraised value will be a different level, and finally the replacement will be different. Oxbow has no other housing stock. So we have some stuff over here in Alzaga that we bought homes, and we had to pay those homeowners more money because they could not find a house of equal replacement value. So we do pay extra money for people who can't find replacement values, and that's really what you have to do. The advantage Fargo has is we have a lot more housing stock that normally somebody can get into another house. Oxbow didn't have any other houses, so they have 40 homes out there that where would they go? There's nothing built, so they have to build up in that area. The other thing when we talked about the partnership agreement is that oftentimes it's not completed until federal money is put in, and the state legislative body at one time put in a rule that they wouldn't let us do some money spending only on the dike. And so the Water Commission and such had some rules set in place, and that's probably where Christopher Pepcorn comes from. But what people have to remember, you want a federal project, because let's say it fails. Okay, who's going to pay that liability? If it's not the feds, then it would be local. So you'd rather have the feds be responsible for that liability. So you have to do things in compliance with the feds. Good.
Okay.
Any other questions? Eric, did we cover everything you think? Okay. Not one question from you today?
Well, actually, the question is, why did you feel it was necessary to hold this press conference now?
Because I think that we're losing focus on some things. I think people don't always understand what federal rules are. When you do federal rules, I can't rewrite those federal rules. The rules are the rules. I have to follow them. And as much as you might be personally insulted that it's a 200% pay for that particular person, you're keeping a community intact. So let's go back to the history of that. Let's go back to 2 to 3 years ago when Denny Wallaker and I walked into the Kindred school and had the school people and all the people in that community upset about they were going to lose funding for their school. They were going to lose children for their school. I mean, that was we sat for 2 to 3 hours listening to people talk to us and tell us, whatever you do, keep Kindred intact. This was an attempt to keep Kindred intact. So the reason we do Oxbow and want Oxbow to survive as a community is you have to figure out the best ways to do that. I don't write the rules, the feds do. If you want to change the rules, the Fed rules, then you have to go to the federal government and change them. We are, as we always are as a city, in compliance with the rules. And basically, we've been doing this for the last year. I'm not quite sure why everybody gets excited about it, but I think you have to remind you that we have our community, we have our people in our community. We have 230,000 people in this area that need this thing fixed because we do have economic impact.
Do you think, Mayor, most people realize, City of Fargo taxpayers realize that their money was sales tax money or the shoppers?
That's been publicized for a year.
Did they think
That went to the Water Commission. That went to the legislature. It's been brought up numerous times. When we went out to the Water Commission, we talked to them about it as well. It's just that one commissioner finally figured it out. Has that ever been a secret from anybody?
Yeah, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
You know, I think, my name's Keith Burnt. I think sometimes people lose focus on what's happening in Oxbow. It's pretty simple. What we're doing down there is treating people fair. These people didn't want to leave their homes. We're forcing them out of their homes. So if you force somebody out of your home, what we've said is we're going to build you a comparable house. That's simple. If you have a 2,000 square foot Rambler, we're going to build you a 2,000 square foot Rambler so you can stay in the community. And and that makes sense. And there's also a lot of confusion about the difference between the tax value and the appraised value. Their assessed values in the community of Oxbow are way, way under the market values. So it's not that we're paying, way over the appraised values. We're paying way over the assessed values. It's a big difference. And so we're basically, again, what we're doing is buying people a similar home to the ones that we're kicking them out of. And that's common sense and that's fair.
Could you guys address, one of the things that Mr. Pepcorn had said was that there was a big difference between how you buy out homes in Fargo and how you bought them out in Oxbow. And I understand there's also some homes in Fargo that are part of the Diversion Project where you are applying the federal rules, but then there are a lot of homes where you don't. Can you talk about,
In the flood of 2009, we came into many communities where we had to take a home out. And if you walk up to a homeowner and say, I need to buy you out, and we're going to take your house down in 2 months or in a month, and we're going to build a dike, what's a fair value? So what was decided upon by a variety of different people is 110% was a fair value. We also had relocation costs, and we also had some benefit for specials to pay down specials so they would stay in Fargo. And that's the way the Fargo part has been done. The relocation issue does go if it's part of the diversion project. So it is a little confusing because we have $240 million worth of work in the city of Fargo that just has to do with flood protection. We have an additional work that has to be done on diversion work. So on the diversion part, we have to follow federal rules, and we would follow those rules. And in fact, in Alzega, I paid overpriced for their appraised value to get them into equal valued or size house in the community. And we have several homes we had to do that. So it's not that we're changing the rules in Fargo. We do that same thing for them. Right now, we're going eminent domain on 26 properties. You know, eminent domain, they'll get an appraised value, and we will pay that appraised value. So we're trying to do as fair as possible, but if you had a home, what would you expect me to pay for your home? Probably your appraised value. And you probably don't want to take benefit by having a benefit out of this project, but the reality is that, you know, it's people. We'd like to treat you fairly, and this is what we come up with. Now, what's happened on top of that is the real estate values have gone up. And you can talk to that if you want, Kevin. I mean, real estate values have gone up the last 12 months, and it's changed us a lot because we were going at 3 to 4% before. So 3 to 4% isn't bad if you're off on a 110-cent value. The problem we're having now is how long does it take to sell a house?
Depends on the price range of the house.
But they're going pretty fast, aren't they?
Yes.
You know, a lot of people, Will Wright was a friend of mine. He had to sell his house in River Drive. He finally had to learn that if he found a house he liked, he had to put an offer in. He couldn't wait 24 hours because oftentimes in 24 hours it was sold. You know, so the market's changed a bit. Yeah, we may have to address that issue because the real estate market is hot right now. But you know, those are things we will take in discussion.
Mayor, these 26 homes that looking at eminent domain, are they one general part of the city or are they across the town?
They're across the town, but we have to finish up some projects. So drive down River Drive, take a look at that. You go into Oak Creek, take a look at that. There's some areas there. And the problem now is that we are getting into expensive homes, and it's no different than Oxbow. Those are expensive homes. You have expensive homes you're getting into, so it increases your cost.
Are you concerned about waning support for the diversion on the commission and in the community?
I just think people don't quite understand it sometimes, and I think sometimes we had a beautiful spring. We didn't have much water. We've had more water in the last month than we had all winter. So a lot of times you go, oh, we can get by with this. And it's kind of like you always want to believe something better can come or something won't happen. So, you know, you have to realize the fact is every expert we've talked to, we need a diversion. Every person we've talked to. And we have a lot of support. In the business community, we have a lot of support. The chamber has endorsed this. Home builders endorsed this. When I ran for mayor, the realty companies came to me and said, how soon can we get it done? That was one of the telling questions they had, because they're hearing it out in the community. So what we're trying to say is, yeah, there's some people that object to the project, but we have a vast majority of people that understand the need for it and are behind it.
How about your commission? There's been some changes there.
Well, the commission, there's sometimes you have to educate. There's a lot of data out there on this particular areas. There's actually 3 commissioners that sit on the diversion board. So Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Sobolik sit on the commission on the diversion authority. So they have probably a lot of information that they've had and understood. And I'm bringing in Tony Garrick. I've talked to him several times about the project. I've had people, you know, bring up information for him and help to bring that to him. And with Commissioner Pipcorn, we'll continue to try to educate.
Looking ahead, Mayor, where are things at with the P3 status? What has to happen?
Right now on the P3 status, we're working with the Corps to develop a draft that they would be happy with, and we have had several meetings in regards to that. We're working with the Office of Management and Budget for the President's Office, and we have some ideas of what they would like to see. They're very excited about the program. Ernst & Young want to put money into it, so we have a great interest in that. We're talking to our second big contractor that's coming through this next week, I think, right? Keith, somebody coming through that has great interest in doing the project. Some of them have done a project in New Orleans and been able to get projects done early and work with federal programs. So we have a lot of people who have great interest in this project.
Mayor, your preference, Michelson or Mickelson? For this project?
Mickelson?
Michelson or Mickelson?
Oh, no preference. What's your preference?
Michelson. I
Michelson?
think we settled it earlier.
Did you grow up here then?
No, but someone told me that former school board member Phyllis Melby, who knew the Michelson family, insisted it's Michelson.
Okay. Well, for Eric Johnson, it has bad memories because he had a little trouble hitting the ball when he was playing baseball early.
The entire season.
You would know that stat. Any other questions? Does Thank you. We thought it'd be better not to be in the mayor's office all the time. It's fun to be out in the sunshine, so appreciate it.